The text message notification lit up the screen while Simone was cooking dinner. She wiped her hands on her apron and glanced down at Derek's phone, which he had carelessly left on the kitchen counter. "Can't wait to feel you again tonight. Tell that wife of yours you're working late." Simone's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled as she unlocked his phone using the passcode she'd always known. One message became 10, then 50, then hundreds. A year's worth of conversations with Candace, his assistant at the office. Detailed descriptions of hotel rooms, lunch breaks that turned into something else, and worst of all, the cruel way they talked about her. "She doesn't suspect anything. She's too busy playing housewife. Does she even know how to access the bank account without you? Please. Simone couldn't survive a week without my money." The knife she'd been using to chop vegetables clattered to the cutting board. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of playing the perfect wife, cooking his meals, organizing his life, supporting his career. And this was what he really thought of her. She heard his key in the lock 20 minutes later. Derek walked in, tie loosened, briefcase in hand, that same charming smile he'd worn the day they met. "Something smells good," he said, kissing her cheek the way he always did. Simone served dinner in silence, watching him eat, watching him scroll through his phone with a little smile she now understood. She waited until he was halfway through his steak before she spoke. "I want to check my bank balance." Derek looked up, confused. "What?" "The joint account. I want to see my balance." He laughed. Actually laughed, setting down his fork and shaking his head like she told a joke. "Simone, why? You've never cared about the finances before. That's my job, remember? You just spend it, I make sure there's money to spend." "I want to see it," she repeated, keeping her voice steady. "Honey, you wouldn't even understand the statements. All those numbers, the investments, the transfers. That's complex stuff. Why don't you just tell me what you need and I'll—" "I want to see my balance, Derek." His smile faded slightly. "Is this about something? Did someone tell you we have money problems?" "Because we're fine. I handle everything." "I know you do," Simone said quietly. "I know you handle everything. I know you think I'm too stupid to understand numbers. I know you think I couldn't survive without you." Derek's eyes narrowed. "Have you been drinking?" "I saw the messages." The color drained from his face so fast she thought he might actually pass out. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Simone, listen, that's not—" "I want to see my balance," she said again, pulling out her phone. "Actually, let me show you something." She opened her banking app, the one he didn't know existed, the one connected to accounts he'd never heard of. Her fingers were steady now as she navigated to the summary page, turned the phone around, and placed it on the table in front of him. Derek's eyes went wide, then wider. His mouth fell open. "That's—" He couldn't finish the sentence. His hands shook as he picked up the phone, zooming in on the number like he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. "That's $42 million. $42,600,000 and change," Simone corrected. "Give or take what the market did today." He stared at the screen, then at her, then back at the screen. How did you? "My grandmother," Simone said, standing up and clearing her untouched plate. "She left me everything when I was 23. I invested it carefully. Built a real estate portfolio. Bought properties in my maiden name. Did you know I own this house, Derek? I bought it 2 months before we got married. You've been living in my house for 5 years." Derek's face went from white to red. "You've been lying to me for 5 years?" "No," Simone said calmly. "I've been protecting myself. Turns out I was right to do that, wasn't I?" He stood up so fast his chair fell backwards. "You let me think I was taking care of you. You let me think you needed me." "I did need you," Simone said, and for the first time her voice cracked. "I needed you to love me. I needed you to be faithful. I needed you to respect me. But you couldn't even do that, could you? You and Candace had quite the laugh about your poor, stupid, dependent wife." "Simone, please. I want a divorce." The words hung in the air like smoke. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "You can't be serious. One mistake and you're going to throw away 5 years. One mistake." Simone's laugh was bitter. 1 year, Derek. 1 year of hotel rooms and lunch breaks and lying to my face every single day. 1 year of you and her laughing about how clueless I was. I'll end it. Right now. I'll call her right now and— "I don't care what you do," Simone said. "I want you out of my house by tomorrow morning. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce proceedings." "Your lawyer?" Derek's voice rose. "What lawyer? When did you—" "I called her an hour ago. Right after I read message number 237, where you told Candace you were thinking about leaving me but you were worried about the settlement. Well, good news, Derek. You don't have to worry about that anymore. She walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a folder she'd prepared months ago, back when she first started suspecting something was wrong. Inside was a copy of their prenuptial agreement, the one his lawyer had insisted on, the one that protected his assets from her in case of divorce. Remember this? She dropped it on the table. You were so worried about protecting your money from me. Your lawyer thought he was so clever. But my lawyer was cleverer. This prenuptial agreement protects your assets from me and my assets from you. Which means you get exactly what you brought into this marriage. Derek grabbed the document, flipping through pages with shaking hands. There has to be something. 5 years of marriage, I have rights. Read Clause 17, Paragraph 3. Any assets held in separate names prior to marriage remain separate property regardless of duration of marriage. Every single property I own is in my maiden name. Every investment account, every business holding, everything. It's all mine, Derek. You get nothing. His face went from red to purple. You plan this? You've been planning this from the beginning. No, Simone said sadly. I hoped I'd never need it. I hoped I married a good man who would love me for who I was, not what he thought I could give him. I was wrong. Derek slammed his fist on the table. This is insane. You can't just kick me out. I can actually. This is my house. You're not on the deed, you're not on the mortgage, you have no legal claim to it whatsoever. My lawyer has already sent the paperwork to your office. You'll want to find your own attorney. A good one. Simone, please. Think about what you're doing. Think about us, about our life together. I am thinking about it, Simone said quietly. I'm thinking about every dinner I cooked while you texted another woman. Every time I ironed your shirts while you planned your next hotel visit. Every smile you gave me that was really meant for her. I'm thinking about all of it, Derek. And I'm done. She walked past him toward the stairs, leaving him standing in her kitchen in her house, staring at a phone that showed numbers he'd never imagined. Pack your things, she called over her shoulder. And Derek? Tell Candace she can have you. But tell her you come with nothing but debt and a really nice suit. Behind her, she heard him collapse into a chair, the sound of his world crumbling around him. But Simone didn't look back. She'd spent 5 years looking at a man who was never really there. It was time to see what her future looked like without him. Simone sat in her bedroom, the door locked, and allowed herself to cry. Not for Derek, she realized as tears streamed down her face. For the woman she'd pretended to be. For the 5 years she'd spent playing small. Her phone buzzed. A text from her attorney, Rebecca. Papers delivered. His office confirmed receipt. He looked appropriately shocked. Call me tomorrow. And Simone? Proud of you. Simone smiled through her tears and opened her laptop. She needed to remember who she really was. Needed to remember the journey that started 7 years ago when her grandmother called her to the hospital. Grandma Ruth had been a force of nature. Born in 1943, she'd worked as a domestic worker until she saved enough to buy her first property in 1968. Then another. Then another. By the time she died at 81, she owned 47 rental properties across 3 states, a commercial building in downtown Atlanta, and a stock portfolio that would make most millionaires jealous. Don't tell anyone, Grandma Ruth had whispered in her hospital bed, gripping Simone's hand. Men especially. They'll either want to control it or control you because of it. Build your empire in silence. Protect yourself first, love second. Simone had been 23, fresh out of college with a degree in business and finance. The inheritance came to $18 million after taxes. $18 million and the weight of her grandmother's wisdom. She'd invested carefully. Real estate in growing markets. Index funds. A few calculated risks in tech startups that paid off beautifully. She'd studied, learned, consulted with experts, and built her grandmother's legacy into something even bigger. By the time she met Derek at a charity fundraiser 3 years later, she was worth $34 million. And absolutely terrified that anyone would know. Derek had been charming. Successful in his own right as a marketing director. He'd made decent money, drove a nice car, wore expensive suits. He'd courted her with flowers and poetry and promises of partnership. I don't want a woman who needs me to take care of her, he'd said on their 3rd date. I want someone who challenges me, who has her own life, her own dreams. So she tested him. Told him she had a small trust fund from her grandmother, nothing major, just enough to feel secure. She'd watched his reaction carefully. That's wonderful, he'd said. Your grandmother sounds like she was an amazing woman. But you know what I love most about you? Not what you have, but who you are. You're brilliant, Simone. You could run a company if you wanted to. Could run a company. The irony wasn't lost on her now. She did run a company. 7 of them, actually. Property management firms, consulting businesses, all carefully structured under different names. But she'd wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that a man could love her for herself, that she didn't need to hide. So when he'd proposed after a year of dating and his lawyer presented the prenuptial agreement, she'd almost told him the truth. Almost. Something in the way Derek's lawyer had talked about protecting his assets, about making sure Simone couldn't take anything if things didn't work out, had triggered her grandmother's voice in her head. Protect yourself first. So she'd signed the prenuptial agreement without argument. And she'd had her own lawyer draft language that protected her assets just as thoroughly. Derek never asked to see the full document. He'd assumed the prenup was all his lawyer's doing. The first year of marriage had been good. Derek was attentive, loving, proud of his beautiful wife. Simone had played the role well, careful not to show too much financial knowledge, letting him believe he was the provider. But little things had started to bother her. The way he'd pat her hand when she asked about investments, saying, "Don't worry your pretty head about it." The way he'd insist on paying for everything even when she offered because that's what men do. The way his compliments always seemed to emphasize her beauty, never her mind. By year 2 she'd started to notice his phone habits. The way he'd smile at texts and then put the phone face down. The late nights at work that came more frequently. The business trips that seemed suspiciously timed. By year 3 she'd hired a private investigator. Not because she wanted to catch him but because she needed to know the truth. The photos came back within a month. Derek and Candace at restaurants, holding hands at movies, checking into hotels under false names. She could have confronted him then. Should have, probably. But something had held her back. She'd started documenting everything instead. Every late night, every lie, every receipt that didn't match his story. She'd built a case the way her grandmother had built her empire, carefully, methodically, leaving nothing to chance. And she'd continued playing the role of the happy, slightly airhead wife who didn't understand numbers or investments or business. Let him think she was dependent. Let him get comfortable in his deception. Now, sitting in her bedroom looking at her portfolio summary on her laptop screen, Simone understood why she'd waited. She needed to be absolutely sure. Sure that he didn't love her. Sure that he saw her as something to be managed, not partnered with. Sure that she was making the right choice. Her phone rang. A known number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Simone? A woman's voice, shaky and uncertain. Who is this? It's Candace. Please don't hang up. Simone's grip tightened on the phone. You have exactly 10 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't. He told me you had nothing. He said you were basically his dependent. That you couldn't even access the bank accounts without him. He said if you ever found out about us, he'd leave you with nothing and you'd have to crawl back to him. Simone laughed, sharp and bitter. And you believed him? I saw how you dressed, how you acted. You seemed so submissive. I thought he was telling the truth. I thought I was getting a successful man who knew how to handle money. So you're calling to what? Apologize. No. Candace's voice hardened. I'm calling because he just called me crying, saying his wife has $42 million and he's going to end up with nothing. I thought you should know he's planning to fight the divorce, claim some kind of mental cruelty, try to get a settlement. Why are you telling me this? There was a long pause. Because I was stupid enough to sleep with a married man, but I'm not stupid enough to stick around for the fallout. And because he's been using my credit cards for the past 6 months. Said his accounts were temporarily frozen for some investment opportunity. I've got $17,000 in debt because of him. Simone sat up straighter. Do you have proof of that? Every receipt, every charge, every text where he promised to pay me back. I was going to use it if he tried to dump me for you. Guess that's not a problem anymore. Send it to my lawyer. Simone rattled off Rebecca's email address. She'll know what to do with it. One more thing, Candace said quietly. I'm sorry. Not for him, he's clearly garbage. But for the way we talked about you. The things I said. I thought I knew the situation, but I was wrong. You were wrong about a lot of things, Simone said. But thank you for the information. And Candace? Get better taste in men. She hung up before the other woman could respond. Immediately, she forwarded the call information to Rebecca with a brief message. Mistress having buyer's remorse. Evidence of financial fraud incoming. Rebecca's response was instant. This just gets better. He's going to wish he'd signed those papers quietly. Simone closed her laptop and stood, walking to the window that overlooked the garden she'd designed, in the house she'd bought, in the life she'd built. Derek was downstairs, probably on the phone with Candace or a lawyer or anyone who might tell him this was all a bad dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was the consequence of his choices. And tomorrow Simone's real life would begin. The one where she didn't have to pretend anymore. The one where she could be exactly who she was meant to be. Powerful, successful, free. Her grandmother would be proud. Rebecca's office was on the 37th floor of a glass building in downtown Atlanta. Simone had been coming here for 3 years, ever since she'd first suspected Derek's infidelity and wanted to make sure her assets were protected. Now, sitting across from her lawyer's mahogany desk, Simone felt a strange sense of calm. Like a chess player who'd been planning moves for months and finally got to say checkmate. "I have to say," Rebecca said, spreading documents across her desk, "in 20 years of practicing family law, I've never seen someone so thoroughly prepared for a divorce they hoped would never happen." "My grandmother taught me to prepare for everything," Simone replied. Rebecca nodded, her silver hair catching the morning light. "Well, your grandmother taught you well. Let's review what we have." She picked up the first folder. Financial documentation. "Every asset you own is in your maiden name, Simone Patterson. The house, purchased 2 months before your marriage. 17 rental properties across Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. 3 commercial buildings. Investment accounts totaling $42.6 million. Business holdings in 7 different LLCs. All acquired before the marriage or with premarital funds, all clearly documented." "And the prenuptial agreement?" Simone asked. "Ironclad." His lawyer was so focused on protecting Derek's assets that he never asked about yours. "Clause 17 protects all separately held property. You walked into this marriage with $34 million. You leave with $42 million. He walks in with his salary and career prospects, he leaves with the same." Rebecca picked up another folder. "Now the infidelity. We have text messages dating back 13 months. Hotel receipts. Restaurant charges. Eyewitness testimony from the private investigator. Photos. And now, thanks to the mistress, evidence of financial fraud." Simone leaned forward. "The credit card situation? Candace sent over everything this morning. $17,000 in charges, all for Derek's personal expenses. Suits, dinners, a watch he gave you for Christmas that he charged to her. Card. She has texts where he explicitly promised to pay her back and then made excuses. That's fraud, Simone. Financial exploitation. Can she press charges? She can and she should. But more importantly for us, it demonstrates a pattern of financial dishonesty that undermines any claim he might make about your assets or your marriage." Rebecca set down the folders and looked at Simone directly. "He's going to fight this. Men like Derek don't accept loss easily. He'll claim emotional distress, mental cruelty, anything to delay or extract a settlement. Are you prepared for that?" "I've been preparing for 5 years," Simone said quietly. "What's his best-case scenario? Honestly? He might try to claim that you hid your assets deliberately to deceive him, that the marriage was based on fraud. But that falls apart immediately because of the prenup. He can't claim you defrauded him when he literally signed a document protecting his assets from yours. The document proves both parties intended to keep finances separate." "What about worst case?" Rebecca hesitated. "Worst case, he drags this out for months, runs up legal bills, makes everything as difficult and expensive as possible. He'll leak stories to friends, maybe try to damage your reputation. But in the end he still gets nothing. The law is clear and we have documentation for everything." Simone's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Please. There are things I need to explain. I love you, Simone. Derek." She showed it to Rebecca, who snorted. "New phone number. He probably thinks you blocked his old one." "I did." "Good. Don't respond. Let him talk to my office from now on." Rebecca made a note. "I'll send a cease and desist letter informing him that all communication must go through legal counsel. Any direct contact could be considered harassment." "When will he get the official papers?" "They were delivered to his office at 9 this morning. He should have them by now." As if on cue, Simone's phone rang. Derek's work number. "Don't answer," Rebecca advised. "Let it go to voicemail." They waited in silence as the phone rang and rang. Finally it stopped. 30 seconds later, a voicemail notification appeared. Simone played it on speaker. Derek's voice was frantic, high-pitched, nothing like the calm, controlled tone he usually used. "Simone, what the hell? You had papers delivered to my office? Do you know what this looks like? Everyone saw, everyone knows now. My boss pulled me into his office to ask if everything was okay. This is humiliating. You can't just, we need to talk about this like adults. Call me back. Right now. This is ridiculous. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. Notice how it's all about his humiliation, his reputation. Not one apology, not one acknowledgement of what he did. That's Derek, Simone said tiredly. Everything is about how it affects him. Her phone buzzed again. Another text, different number. Baby, please pick up. I know you're mad, but we can fix this. I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry. But you hiding all that money from me, that's also a betrayal. We both messed up. Let's just talk. Simone stared at the message in disbelief. He's trying to equate protecting my inheritance with him having a year-long affair? Classic deflection, Rebecca said. He's going to try to make you feel guilty, try to claim both parties are at fault. Don't engage. Every text he sends, forward to me. We're building a record of his behavior post-discovery. What happens next? Rebecca consulted her timeline. He has 30 days to respond to the divorce petition. During that time, he'll need to get a lawyer, file a response, and submit any counterclaims. We'll have a preliminary hearing in about 60 days to address temporary orders, who stays in the house, that sort of thing. But since you own the house outright, that's straightforward. And if he refuses to cooperate? Then we file for a default judgment. But I doubt he'll go that route. He's going to fight, Simone. Men with ego problems always do. But fighting requires money, and from what I can see of his finances, he doesn't have much to work with. Simone's phone rang again. This time it was a number she recognized, Derek's mother. His family is going to get involved, Rebecca warned. They'll try to guilt you, convince you to reconcile. You need to be ready for that. Simone declined the call. Almost immediately a text arrived. Simone, dear, Derek just called me in tears. He says there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Please call me. Family matters should be handled in private. Forward it, Rebecca instructed. Simone did, then turned off her phone completely. I can't deal with this right now. Good instinct. Go home, take a bath, order takeout. Let me handle the legal side. That's what you're paying me for. As Simone gathered her purse, Rebecca added, one more thing. Start thinking about your future. You're about to be a very wealthy single woman with no one to answer to. What do you want to do with that freedom? Simone paused at the door. She'd been so focused on documenting Derek's betrayal, on protecting herself, on making it through the confrontation, that she hadn't thought about what came next. I don't know, she admitted. Well, you have time to figure it out. But Simone? Whatever you decide, make sure it's something that honors that grandmother of yours. She didn't build all this just so you could hide it. She built it so you could be powerful. Simone drove home in silence, Rebecca's words echoing in her head. Her phone, still turned off, sat in her purse. She knew there would be dozens of messages when she turned it back on. Derek's pleas, his family's interventions, maybe even Candace trying to give more information. But right now she didn't want to deal with any of it. She just wanted to go home to her house, her sanctuary, and figure out who she was going to be now that she didn't have to pretend anymore. The house was empty when she arrived. Derek's car was gone, his clothes missing from the closet. He'd taken her seriously about moving out, at least. Probably went to his parents' house to spin some version of events where he was the victim. Simone walked through each room, seeing it differently now. This wasn't their house. It was her house. Always had been. The furniture she'd chosen, the colors she'd picked, the garden she'd designed. Derek had just been living in her space, never realizing it wasn't his. In the kitchen, she poured herself a glass of wine and sat at the table where, just 24 hours ago, she'd confronted him. Where his face had gone white as he realized she wasn't who he thought she was. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it. Tomorrow she'd turn it back on. Tomorrow she'd start dealing with lawyers and family and the mess Derek was probably making. Tomorrow she'd start thinking about Rebecca's question. What did she want to do with her freedom? But tonight she just wanted to sit in her house, drink her wine, and feel the weight of 5 years of pretending finally lift off her shoulders. She was done playing small. Done hiding. Done letting anyone make her feel less than she was. Simone Patterson was a millionaire 42 times over. She owned businesses, properties, and her own future. And Derek? Derek was about to find out what it really meant to have nothing. Derek sat in his parents' basement guest room, staring at his laptop screen. The divorce petition was 17 pages of legal language that basically said the same thing over and over. Simone owned everything, he owned nothing, and their marriage was over. His phone rang for the 15th time that hour. Candace. He declined the call, just like he'd declined the previous 14. She'd been blowing up his phone since yesterday, demanding to know if it was true about Simone's money, asking when he was going to pay her back the $17,000, threatening to take him to small claims court. The woman he'd spent a year telling her how beautiful she was, how much better she was than his wife, was now showing her true colors. She wanted his money. Money he didn't have. Money he'd never actually had. Another call. This time his boss, Greg. Derek considered ignoring it, but that seemed like a bad idea given he'd already been pulled into an office meeting yesterday about maintaining professional standards, after the divorce papers were delivered to his desk by a process server in front of half the office. Hello? Derek, we need to talk. Can you come in early tomorrow? Say 7? That was never good. Sure, Greg. Everything okay? We'll discuss it tomorrow. 7 sharp. The line went dead. Derek dropped his phone on the bed and put his head in his hands. His career was falling apart. His marriage was over. His girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, was threatening legal action. And he was living in his parents' basement at 36 years old. How had everything gone so wrong so fast? His mother knocked softly on the door. Derek? Dinner's ready. I'm not hungry. You need to eat. Come on. He trudged upstairs to find his parents sitting at the kitchen table, looking at him with matching expressions of concern and disappointment. So, his father said, cutting into his pot roast with more force than necessary. Want to tell us what really happened? I told you. Simone wants a divorce. Because you cheated on her, his mother said flatly. Derek winced. He tried to spin it differently, but his mother was too smart for that. She'd asked direct questions and he'd folded immediately. It was a mistake. I ended it. I was going to work things out with Simone, but she's being completely unreasonable. Unreasonable how? His father asked. She won't even talk to me. She had papers served at my office. She's frozen me out completely. Did you apologize? Of course I apologized. But she won't listen. And now I find out she's been hiding millions of dollars from me for our entire marriage. That's fraud, Dad. That's deception. His father set down his fork. Did you sign a prenuptial agreement? Yes, but... Did the prenup specify that you keep your assets separate? Yes, but I didn't know she had assets. She let me think she had nothing. Did you ask? Derek froze. What? Did you ever ask your wife about her finances? Her investments? Her assets? Or did you just assume because she let you handle the bills that she had nothing? She never said. That's not what I asked. Did you ask? Derek thought back to their dating years, their engagement, their marriage. Had he ever asked Simone about her grandmother's inheritance? Had he ever asked what the small trust fund she'd mentioned actually contained? No. He'd assumed it was pocket money. Maybe 100,000, enough to make her feel secure but not enough to matter. He'd never asked for details because he'd been so focused on protecting his own assets. The prenup protected me from her, Derek said weakly. And apparently protected her from you, his mother said. Sounds like her lawyer was smarter than yours. Whose side are you on? Yours, his father said firmly. Always. But being on your side means telling you the truth. You cheated on your wife. You got caught. She's divorcing you. That's not unreasonable, son. That's consequence. But the money is hers. Was always hers. You said she inherited it before you met? Yes. Then it's not marital property. You know that. You work in marketing, but you're not stupid. You signed a prenup specifically to avoid splitting assets. Can't have it both ways. Derek felt his last hope crumbling. So I get nothing? After 5 years of marriage, I just walk away with nothing? You walk away with what you brought in, his mother said. Your career, your salary, your prospects. That's more than nothing. It's not $42 million. No, his father agreed. It's not. But it's honest. Tell me something, Derek. If Simone had told you about her money when you first met, would you have married her? The question hit like a punch. Derek opened his mouth to say of course he would have, but the lie stuck in his throat. If he'd known Simone was worth that much, would he have seen her as a partner or as a prize? Would he have loved her or her money? The silence stretched too long. That's what I thought, his father said sadly. Derek's phone buzzed. A text from Greg. Actually, don't wait until tomorrow. I need you to come in tonight. HR wants to speak with you. His stomach dropped. I have to go to work. At 8 at night? HR wants to talk to me. His parents exchanged a look. That doesn't sound good, his mother said gently. It wasn't good. Derek knew it wasn't good. But he got in his car and drove to the office anyway, hoping against hope that it was just a formality, just a check-in about his personal situation affecting his work. The HR director, Patricia, was waiting in a conference room with Greg and a woman Derek didn't recognize who introduced herself as the company's legal counsel. "Derek, have a seat," Patricia said, her voice professionally neutral. He sat. His hands were sweating. "We've received some concerning information," Patricia continued. "Information regarding your use of company resources for personal matters." Derek's heart stopped. "What?" The legal counsel slid a folder across the table. "Company credit card charges. Hotels, restaurants, gift purchases. All during work hours, all charged to accounts designated for client entertainment. The hotels. The lunches with Candace. The jewelry he bought her and claimed was for a client's wife. I can explain." "The company has conducted an audit," Greg interrupted. $8,000 in unauthorized charges over the past year. That's theft, Derek. Embezzlement. I was planning to pay it back." "With what money?" Patricia asked. "Your salary doesn't support that kind of spending. And now we understand you're going through a divorce, which means your financial situation is even more precarious." "This is about my divorce? You're punishing me for getting divorced." "This is about you stealing from the company," Greg said, and Derek had never heard his boss sound so cold. "The divorce just brought it to our attention. Someone in accounting saw your name in the divorce filing at the courthouse. Her sister works there, and decided to do some digging into your expenses. What she found was a pattern of fraudulent charges." The legal counsel leaned forward. "We're giving you two options, Derek. Option 1. Resign immediately, pay back the $8,000 within 60 days and we don't press charges. Option 2. We terminate you for cause, report the theft to the authorities and pursue full legal action." "I don't have $8,000. "Then I suggest you find it. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. Resign or be fired and prosecuted. Your choice." Derek stumbled out of the conference room an hour later, resignation letter signed, payment plan agreed to, career in tatters. He'd negotiated them down to $500 a month for 16 months, but that was still money he didn't have. In his car, he finally answered one of Candace's calls. "It's over," he said before she could speak. "What's over?" "Everything. I just lost my job. I have no money. I'm living with my parents. Simone is taking everything in the divorce and now you're threatening to sue me too. It's all over." "Wait, you lost your job?" "Embezzlement. They found all the charges I put on the company card. For you. For us." There was a long silence. "Derek," Candace said slowly, "I can't be with someone who has no job and no money. I have bills. I have a life. I thought you were successful. I thought you loved me. I loved the man who took me to nice restaurants and bought me jewelry. Not the man who's broke and living with his parents. I'm sorry, but I have to think about myself here." "So that's it? One bad day and you're gone?" "One bad day." Candace laughed bitterly. "Derek, you're about to be divorced, unemployed and potentially prosecuted for fraud. That's not one bad day. That's a disaster. I deserve better than that." "You deserve better? You helped me cheat on my wife. And you let me think you were worth it. You said you were going to leave her, that we'd have this great life together. You lied about everything." "I didn't lie about." But she'd already hung up. Derek sat in the parking lot of his former office building, his former career, his former life, and tried to figure out where everything had gone wrong. But he knew. It had started the moment he decided Simone wasn't enough. The moment he thought he deserved more, deserved better. The moment he believed his own lies about being the provider, the successful one, the one in control. Simone had been playing him the whole time. Letting him think he was powerful while she quietly built an empire he never saw coming. And now he had nothing. His phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Candace had just posted a photo with another man, both of them dressed for a fancy dinner. The caption read, "New beginnings with someone who knows what they want." The photo had been posted 2 minutes ago. She'd already moved on. Derek deleted Instagram. Then Facebook. Then Twitter. He couldn't stand to see his former life mocking him from social media. When he got back to his parents' house, they were already in bed. He went down to the basement, lay on the guest bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow he'd have to tell them he lost his job. Tomorrow he'd have to figure out how to pay back $8,000. Tomorrow he'd have to start looking for new employment with a resignation on his record that any reference check would reveal was really a termination for theft. But tonight, all he could think about was Simone's face when she'd said, "I want a divorce." Calm, strong, completely in control. She'd been in control the whole time. and he'd been too arrogant to notice. Simone woke up in her new penthouse to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The view overlooked downtown Atlanta, a sea of buildings and possibilities stretching out before her. She'd bought this place 2 years ago as an investment property, planning to rent it out. But yesterday, after meeting with Rebecca, she'd decided to move in herself. Let Derek have the memories of their shared house. She was starting fresh. Her phone showed 37 missed calls and 62 text messages from the past 3 days. She'd been screening everything through Rebecca, only responding to her lawyer and a few close friends. Rebecca had forwarded the important stuff. Derek's lawyer trying to negotiate a settlement, Derek's mother asking for a meeting, Derek himself sending increasingly desperate messages that went from apologetic to angry to begging and back again. And one email that made Simone's blood run cold. Derek was trying to claim rights to her assets based on economic partnership, despite the prenup. His lawyer was arguing that since Simone had benefited from Derek's emotional and domestic support during their marriage, she owed him compensation. Rebecca's response had been swift and brutal. Bring it. Let's see how domestic support holds up against documented infidelity and financial fraud. Now, sipping coffee on her private balcony, Simone read through Rebecca's latest update. Derek's lawyer withdrew from the case. Apparently, Derek can't pay the retainer. He's looking for a new attorney but having trouble finding someone willing to take this on contingency. Most lawyers can see this as a losing battle. He has 30 days from the initial filing to respond, and 12 of those days are already gone. If he doesn't respond, we can file for default judgment. Simone should have felt victorious. Instead, she just felt tired. Her phone rang. An unknown number but with an Atlanta area code. Against her better judgment, she answered. Mrs. Collins? This is Patricia from HR at Marcus & Associates. Derek's company. Simone sat up straighter. It's Miss Patterson now. How can I help you? I'm calling to inform you that Derek Collins is no longer employed with our company. He resigned 3 days ago. I know you're going through a divorce, and I wanted to make sure you were aware of any changes to benefits or insurance that might affect you. Thank you, but I have my own insurance. Can I ask why he resigned? There was a pause. I can't discuss personnel matters in detail, but I can tell you that there were irregularities in company credit card usage that prompted an internal investigation. More fraud. Simone closed her eyes. Thank you for letting me know. After hanging up, she texted Rebecca. Derek lost his job. Embezzlement investigation. Rebecca's response was immediate. Well, that explains why he can't pay his lawyer. This actually works in our favor. He's desperate now, more likely to accept a quick settlement just to end this. But Simone didn't want a settlement. She wanted him to understand what he'd done, to face real consequences, to admit that he'd thrown away something real for something empty. Her doorbell rang. The concierge had approved someone to come up. Simone checked the security camera and saw Derek's mother standing in the hallway, looking small and tired. Against her better judgment, Simone opened the door. Mrs. Collins. Simone. Please, can we talk? Just 5 minutes. Simone stepped aside to let her in. Derek's mother stopped in the entryway, taking in the penthouse with wide eyes. This is yours? I bought it 2 years ago. I was planning to rent it out, but I decided to live here instead. Mrs. Collins sat heavily on the couch. Derek told me you had money, but I didn't realize. I didn't understand. Most people didn't. That was kind of the point. He lost his job. I heard. He's completely falling apart, Simone. He's living in our basement, he can't afford a lawyer, Candace dumped him, and he's facing legal action from his former company. I've never seen him like this. I'm sorry you're going through this, Simone said carefully. But Derek made his choices. I know he did. I'm not here to defend what he did. Cheating is unforgivable. Mrs. Collins looked at her hands. I'm here to ask if you'll consider giving him one small mercy. What mercy? He wants to file a response to the divorce petition. He can't afford a lawyer, so he's trying to do it himself. He's making a mess of it. I don't want him to make things worse by filing something stupid that drags this out or gets him in more legal trouble. That's not my problem. I know. You'd be well within your rights to let him crash and burn. But Simone, I've always liked you. You were good for my son even if he didn't appreciate it. And I taught him better than this. I'm embarrassed by what he's done, and I'm heartbroken that he hurt you. But he's still my son, and watching him self-destruct is killing me. Simone felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. Mrs. Collins had always been kind to her, had welcomed her into the family without reservation. What do you want me to do? Could you ask your lawyer to help him file a simple response? Nothing that contests the divorce, just something that protects him from a default judgment while he tries to figure out his next steps? I'll pay for it. Whatever it costs. Simone considered this. A default judgment would be faster, but it would also mean Derek never actually acknowledged what he'd done wrong. Never actually faced his actions in any formal way. I'll talk to Rebecca, Simone said finally. But if she agrees to help, Derek has to sign the papers without contest. No arguments about assets, no claims about what he's owed, no attempts to drag this out. Clean, simple, over. Mrs. Collins nodded eagerly. Yes, I'll make sure he understands. And one more thing. Tell Derek that after this I don't want any contact. No texts, no calls, no showing up at my properties. It's over. He needs to move on with his life and I need to move on with mine. I'll tell him. Thank you, Simone. This is more than he deserves. It's not for him, Simone said quietly. It's for you. You were always kind to me. After Mrs. Collins left, Simone called Rebecca. Are you sure about this? Her lawyer asked. We're in a very strong position. Default judgment would be quick and final. I'm sure. His mother asked, and she's not the one who hurt me. Can we draft something simple? Just an acknowledgement that he received the petition and doesn't contest it. I can do that. It'll actually save you money in the long run. Less court time if he cooperates. Rebecca paused. You're being very generous considering what he did. I'm not being generous. I'm being strategic. I want this over so I can move on. If helping him file paperwork gets me there faster, it's worth it. Fair enough. I'll draft something today and send it to his mother. But Simone? After this, you need to start thinking about what you want to build, not what you're tearing down. I know. I'm working on it. That evening, Simone stood on her balcony watching the sunset over Atlanta. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you. I know I don't deserve your help. I'm sorry for everything. Derek. She stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Sorry wasn't enough. Sorry didn't undo a year of lies. Sorry didn't erase the person he'd shown himself to be. But maybe if he signed those papers without a fight, she could at least close this chapter and start writing a new one. 3 days later, Rebecca called with news. He signed. Everything. No contest, no counterclaims, nothing. The divorce will be final in 60 days pending the standard waiting period. Simone, you're free. Free. The word should have felt liberating. Instead it felt strange. Like taking off a heavy coat and not quite remembering what it felt like to move without that weight. Thank you, Rebecca. For everything. Thank me by living an amazing life. You've got 42 million reasons to do exactly what you want. Don't waste them. That night, Simone sat at her desk and opened a notebook. At the top of the first page she wrote, "What do I want to build?" For the first time in 5 years, the answer wasn't about protecting herself or hiding her truth. It was about creating something meaningful with the empire her grandmother had built and she had grown. By morning she had filled 10 pages with ideas. Foundations, programs, investments that could help other women who found themselves trapped or powerless. Her grandmother had built an empire in silence so Simone could be safe. Now Simone was going to use that empire to make sure other women didn't have to hide at all. 6 months later, Simone stood in front of a room full of women at the grand opening of the Grandmother's Legacy Foundation. The space had once been an old community center, but Simone had purchased and renovated it, creating a modern facility with classroom spaces, private counseling rooms, a computer lab and a legal aid office. My grandmother told me to build my empire in silence, Simone began, her voice steady despite her nerves. She told me to protect myself first, love second. For years I followed that advice. I hid my success, played small, protected my assets. And that wisdom saved me when my marriage fell apart. The women in the audience nodded. Some were there for the free financial literacy classes. Others were escaping abusive relationships. All of them understood the need to be careful, to have a backup plan to protect themselves. But silence has its limits, Simone continued. My grandmother built her empire in an era when women had few options, when protecting yourself meant hiding what you had. We live in a different time now. We can be powerful and visible. We can help each other instead of surviving alone. She gestured to the facility around them. This foundation exists to give women the tools my grandmother gave me: financial education, legal support, safe savings accounts that partners can't access, job training, and most importantly, a community of people who understand what it means to need a plan B. The applause was warm and genuine. After her speech, women lined up to share their stories. A single mother learning to invest for her children's future. A woman who'd opened a secret bank account before filing for divorce. A teenager whose grandmother had sent her to learn about money management. Each story reminded Simone why this work mattered. That was a great speech. Simone turned to find a man standing behind her, early 30s, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. He wore jeans and a t-shirt with a blueprint printed on it. "Thank you. Are you here for the event?" "I'm Isaiah. I volunteer at the youth center next door. I saw the renovations happening and wanted to see what you'd done with the space." "It's impressive." They walked through the facility together, Isaiah asking thoughtful questions about the design choices, the traffic flow, the way she created both open community spaces and private areas for sensitive conversations. "You really thought about how people would move through here," he observed. "How they'd feel in each space." "I worked with an architect on the design. She specialized in trauma-informed spaces, environments that feel safe and empowering rather than institutional." "Smart." Isaiah stopped in front of the children's area, a bright room with books, toys, and comfortable seating. "This is really well done. The windows let in natural light, but there's no view to the street so kids can relax without worrying about who might see them." "You know a lot about design." "I'm an architect. Or I was. Now I mostly do pro bono work for community organizations." He smiled self-consciously. "Turns out there's not a lot of money in designing homeless shelters, but it's work that matters." Simone found herself genuinely interested. "What made you shift from commercial work to nonprofits?" "My sister went through a rough divorce. Her ex had controlled all the money, all the decisions. When she finally left, she had nothing. No credit, no savings, nowhere to go except back to our parents' couch at 34 years old." He looked around the facility. "Places like this could have helped her. So now I try to make sure places like this exist." They talked for an hour, comparing notes on trauma-informed design, discussing the challenges of serving vulnerable populations, sharing stories about the people they'd helped. Isaiah was easy to talk to, genuinely passionate about his work, and refreshingly honest about his own struggles. "I should let you get back to your event," he said finally. "But if you ever need design work for the foundation, I'd love to help. Pro bono, obviously. This kind of project is exactly why I got into architecture." Simone surprised herself by saying, "I'm actually planning to expand. Buy a building that could serve as a shelter and housing program for women leaving abusive situations. I've been interviewing architects. I'd love to be considered. Here's my card." He handed her a simple business card with just his name and email. No fancy logo, no corporate branding. Just, Isaiah Bennett, architect. After he left, Simone found herself looking at the card more often than necessary. There was something about him that felt different from the men she usually met. No pretense, no performance, just genuine care about work that mattered. A week later, she emailed him about the shelter project. His proposal arrived 2 days after that, and it took her breath away. Isaiah had designed a building that felt like a home, not an institution. Private family suites with kitchenettes. Communal spaces that encouraged connection without forcing it. Security features that were protective without being prison-like. Every detail showed he understood what these women needed: safety, dignity, and space to rebuild. They met to discuss the proposal at a coffee shop near the foundation. Isaiah brought a portfolio of his other community projects. A youth center with soundproof music rooms, a food bank designed for efficient operation and client dignity, a community garden with accessible raised beds. "You really care about this," Simone observed. "Don't you?" "Yes, but this is my foundation. You could be designing luxury condos and making 10 times what you make doing this work." Isaiah shrugged. "Money isn't everything. My sister is thriving now, by the way. She went back to school, got her nursing degree, just bought her first house. She needed help to get there and she got it. That's what I want to build, systems that help people get there." Simone felt something shift in her chest. Here was a man who understood what she was trying to do, who valued the same things she did, who chose purpose over profit. "I want to hire you," she said. "For the shelter and for whatever other projects the foundation takes on. Fair rates, not pro bono. This is important work and you deserve to be compensated." "I appreciate that, but..." "No buts. I'm not a charity case and neither are you. We're professionals doing work that matters and we should be paid appropriately. If you want to donate some of your fee back to the foundation, that's your choice. But I'm not asking you to work for free." Isaiah smiled, and Simone noticed for the first time that it was a really nice smile. "You're direct. I like that." 5 years of playing indirect taught me the value of saying what I mean. Over the next 2 months, Simone and Isaiah worked closely on the shelter project. They met weekly to review plans, visit potential properties, discuss design modifications. Simone appreciated that Isaiah never talked down to her, never assumed she wouldn't understand technical aspects. He explained things clearly, listened to her feedback, incorporated her ideas. And slowly, without quite meaning to, they became friends. Isaiah learned about Simone's divorce, her hidden empire, her grandmother's wisdom. Simone learned about Isaiah's sister, his decision to leave corporate architecture, his belief that good design could change lives. Do you ever miss it? Simone asked one afternoon as they reviewed floor plans. The big projects, the recognition, the money? Sometimes, Isaiah admitted. But then I see something like this. He gestured to the shelter plans, and I remember why I left. I was designing office buildings that nobody loved. Now I'm designing spaces that might save someone's life. That feels more important. Your ex-wife must have thought you were crazy. Ex-girlfriend. We broke up when I quit the firm. She said I was throwing away my future for some naive idealism. He smiled ruefully. Turns out she was more interested in the lifestyle than the person providing it. Sounds familiar. They looked at each other for a long moment. Simone felt her heart beat faster. I should go, she said, standing abruptly. I have a meeting. She didn't have a meeting. She just needed space to think about why Isaiah's smile made her nervous, why his presence felt different from anyone else she'd met since the divorce. That night her friend Michelle called. So, Michelle said without preamble, tell me about the architect. There's nothing to tell. He's designing the shelter. Simone. I've known you for 10 years. You mentioned him 4 times in 20 minutes. Tell me about the architect. So Simone did. She told Michelle about Isaiah's projects, his values, the way he really listened when she talked about the foundation's mission. And he's cute, Michelle added. That's not relevant. Girl, please. When was the last time you let yourself notice if a man was cute? It doesn't matter. I'm focused on the foundation. I'm not looking for anything else right now. Nobody's saying you have to marry him. But maybe let yourself enjoy the fact that a good-looking, kind, purpose-driven man thinks you're brilliant? That's allowed. After hanging up, Simone lay in bed thinking about Michelle's words. Was she allowed to be interested in someone new? It had only been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. Shouldn't she wait longer? Focus on herself? But then she remembered Derek, who had claimed to love her while betraying her. Who had valued her money over her mind, her appearance over her ambitions. Who had never once asked what she wanted to build in the world. Isaiah asked her that question every time they met. What do you want to build? How can I help you build it? What matters most to you in this design? The next week, Simone invited Isaiah to the foundation's first graduation ceremony. 20 women had completed the financial literacy program. Each received a certificate, a savings account with a $1,000 seed deposit funded by the foundation, and a toolkit for building wealth. Isaiah sat in the audience, watching as woman after woman shared her story. A single mother who now had an emergency fund. A survivor of domestic violence who'd hidden enough money to escape. A young woman who'd paid off her credit cards and started investing. This is incredible, Isaiah said afterward. You're changing lives, Simone. We're changing lives. Those design choices you made, the way the space feels safe and welcoming, that matters. Women keep coming back because they feel comfortable here. We make a good team. Simone met his eyes. Yeah, we do. Isaiah smiled. So, completely separate from our professional relationship, would you want to have dinner sometime? Just dinner, no pressure, no expectations. Just 2 people who enjoy talking to each other, sharing a meal. Simone's first instinct was to say no, to protect herself, to keep things professional. But then she thought about her grandmother, who had told her to protect herself first but never said she couldn't also choose happiness. I'd like that, she said. Friday night? There's a great Ethiopian restaurant near here. Friday works. As Isaiah walked away, Simone felt something she hadn't felt in years, hopeful. Not about money or revenge or proving something to Derek. Just hopeful about the possibility of sharing a meal with someone who saw her, really saw her, and liked what he found. Maybe building something better didn't just mean foundations and programs. Maybe it also meant building a life that was truly her own, filled with people who valued all of her. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard about your foundation. Congratulations. I always knew you were smart. Derek. Simone stared at the message for a moment, then blocked the number without responding. Derek was her past. The foundation, Isaiah, the life she was building, that was her future. And for the first time since she'd discovered those text messages 9 months ago, Simone felt excited about what came next. Derek stared at his laptop in the public library, updating his resume for the 100th time. 6 months unemployed, savings depleted, living in his parents' basement. The library had become his office because he couldn't afford the internet at home. His phone buzzed. Another rejection email. We've decided to move forward with other candidates. Thank you for your interest. That made 43 rejections in 6 months. Some were immediate, automated responses. Others came after phone interviews where things seemed to go well until the inevitable reference check. Word had gotten around about the company credit card situation. Marketing was a small world in Atlanta. How's the job hunt going? His father appeared behind him, setting down a cup of coffee from the library cafe. Great, Dad. Living the dream. His father sighed and sat down. Derek, we need to talk about next steps. I'm trying. I'm applying everywhere. I know you are. But it's been 6 months. Your mother and I can't keep supporting you indefinitely. We're on a fixed income. I'm paying you rent. $300 a month doesn't cover your food, utilities, the phone we're helping you pay for. We're happy to help you get back on your feet, but you need a plan. A real plan. Derek closed his laptop. What do you want me to do, Dad? I have embezzlement on my record. Every marketing firm in the city knows what happened. I'm blacklisted. Then maybe marketing isn't the path anymore. Have you considered other industries? Retail management? Sales? Something to get money coming in while you figure out the next move? I have an MBA from a good school. I'm not working retail. Pride is expensive, son. Right now you can't afford it. After his father left, Derek opened social media, something he'd sworn off but couldn't quite quit. Candace's profile was public. She was engaged now to some tech executive, posting photos from exotic vacations and fancy restaurants. She'd moved on completely, never looked back. He found himself searching for Simone. Her personal accounts were locked down, but he'd heard things through mutual friends. Heard about the foundation. Heard she'd bought a penthouse. Heard she was seeing someone. Someone posted a photo from the foundation's graduation ceremony. Simone stood on stage, wearing a blue dress that made her look powerful and elegant. She was smiling, genuinely happy, surrounded by women whose lives she was changing. And in the audience, visible in the background, a man was watching her with obvious admiration. Derek zoomed in on the photo, studying the stranger's face. Young, clean-cut, looking at Simone the way Derek used to look at Candace. Like she was the most important person in the room. He felt sick. His phone rang. A known number. Probably another robocall, but he answered anyway. Is this Derek Collins? Yes. This is Lawrence Martinez. I'm an attorney representing Candace Thompson. You have 30 days to pay the $17,000 you owe my client, or we'll be filing a civil suit for fraud and financial exploitation. Derek's stomach dropped. I'm making payments to my former employer. I can't afford. That's not my concern, Mr. Collins. You borrowed money from my client under false pretenses. You promised to repay her and failed to do so. 30 days. The call ended. Derek put his head in his hands. $17,000 to Candace. $8,000 to his former employer, of which he'd only paid back $2,000. Student loans he'd been deferring but couldn't defer forever. Credit card debt from trying to maintain appearances during the affair. He was drowning. That night, he attended a networking event for marketing professionals, hoping to make connections that might lead to work. Instead, he ran into former colleagues from Marcus & Associates. Derek, didn't expect to see you here. Thomas, who'd worked in the cubicle next to Derek's, smiled awkwardly. Still looking for the right opportunity. Sure. Hey, we should grab coffee sometime, catch up. It was the kind of thing people said when they had no intention of following through. Derek recognized the tone. He'd used it himself when trying to politely exit conversations. Actually, Thomas continued, lowering his voice, I heard about what happened. With the company cards. Tough break. It was a misunderstanding. Right, yeah. Anyway, good to see you. Good luck with everything. Thomas hurried away, and Derek noticed other former colleagues actively avoiding eye contact. He was toxic now, someone who might ask for favors or references they couldn't give. He left the event early and drove to the small apartment building where he knew Candace lived. Not to talk to her, he wasn't that stupid. Just to see if her lights were on, to confirm she was really as happy as her social media suggested. A nice car was parked in her assigned spot. Through the window he could see her and her fiancé cooking dinner together, laughing, completely comfortable. She'd erased Derek from her life like he'd never existed. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Cleaning out the garage. Found the box of things from your old apartment. Want to go through it? The box contained remnants of his pre-divorce life. Photos of him and Simone at their wedding, on vacations, at events. In every picture she was smiling at the camera while he was checking his phone or looking distracted. How had he not seen it? How had he missed the fact that he'd never actually been present in his own marriage? He found their wedding album. Simone in her dress, beautiful and radiant. Him in his tux, already thinking about work, about his career, about everything except the woman standing beside him. On the next page, a photo of them dancing. Simone was looking up at him with such hope, such love. He was looking over her shoulder at something else. Derek closed the album and opened his laptop. He typed Simone's name into Google. Local philanthropist launches foundation to help women escape financial abuse. Grandmother's Legacy Foundation celebrates first graduating class. Simone Patterson, building an empire of empowerment. Article after article about her success, her foundation, her mission. She was making news, changing lives, being exactly who she was meant to be. And he was sitting in his parents' basement, unemployed and in debt, with nothing to show for the 5 years they'd spent together. He opened an email draft, typed out an apology. Simone, I know I have no right to contact you, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I see what you're building, what you're accomplishing, and I understand now what I threw away. I was so focused on controlling you that I never saw who you really were. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand. You deserved so much better than me. He stared at the draft for an hour before deleting it unsent. What would be the point? She'd moved on. She was thriving. His apology would just be one more thing about him, his feelings, his guilt. She didn't need that. The next morning, Derek swallowed his pride and applied for a retail management position at a sporting goods store. The pay was less than half what he'd made at Marcus & Associates. But it was something, and his father was right. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. He got the job. Started the following Monday at $8 an hour, folding shirts and helping customers find the right running shoes. His first day, a woman came in who looked familiar. It took him a moment to place her. She'd been in photos from Simone's foundation graduation, one of the women in the program. She didn't recognize him and he didn't identify himself. He just helped her find basketball shoes for her son, watched her pay with a card from a bank he knew the foundation recommended, saw the confidence in the way she handled the transaction. That confidence had come from Simone's program. From the empire his ex-wife was building while he folded clearance t-shirts. That night he saw another social media post about the foundation. Simone and the architect, Isaiah, according to the caption, breaking ground on a new shelter for women and children escaping domestic violence. In the photo, Isaiah's hand rested gently on Simone's back. Not possessive, not controlling. Supportive. And Simone was leaning into him slightly, comfortable and happy. Derek closed the app. He'd lost everything, his marriage, his career, his reputation, his money. But Simone? Simone had lost nothing. She'd shed dead weight and soared. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent 5 years trying to keep her small, manageable, dependent. And all that time she'd been powerful beyond anything he'd imagined. His phone buzzed. Candace's lawyer again. Final notice. Payment due in 10 days or we file suit. Derek looked at his bank account. $400. His next paycheck would be $300 after taxes. He couldn't pay Candace. Couldn't pay his former employer. Couldn't even pay his parents' proper rent. But Simone? Simone had $42 million and growing. Simone had a foundation, a mission, a man who looked at her like she hung the moon. Simone had everything. And Derek had exactly what he deserved. Nothing. Simone stood at the front of the shelter's construction site, hard hat on, watching as workers poured the foundation. Beside her, Isaiah pointed out various structural elements, explaining how each choice contributed to both safety and comfort. The soundproofing here, he indicated a section of interior walls, means residents can have privacy. Someone having a breakdown in one room won't disturb someone trying to sleep in another. You think of everything, Simone observed. Isaiah smiled. I learned from my sister. When she first left her ex, she stayed at a shelter where you could hear everything through the walls. She said it felt like living in an echo chamber of trauma. I promised myself I'd never design a space like that. They'd been dating for 3 months now, taking things slowly. Dinner once a week, coffee meetings that turned into long walks, shared work on the foundation projects. Isaiah never pushed for more, never made demands. He just showed up, present and interested in whatever Simone wanted to share. It was so different from Derek that sometimes Simone had to remind herself this was real. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Isaiah asked. "Just thinking about how different things are now. Different good or different complicated?" "Both." Simone took off her hard hat, running her hand through her hair. "6 months ago I was just getting divorced, still processing everything. Now I have this foundation, these projects, you. Sometimes it feels like I'm living someone else's life." "Whose life would it be?" "The one I was always supposed to have. The one where I don't hide who I am or what I'm capable of." Isaiah's hand found hers. "I like this version of you. The one who builds shelters and changes lives and doesn't apologize for being brilliant." Simone squeezed his hand. "Thank you for being patient with me." "I'm not being patient. I'm being interested. There's a difference." That evening, Simone returned to her penthouse to find an email from Rebecca. "Derek's filed for bankruptcy." Chapter 7. He's trying to discharge the debts to his former employer and his ex-girlfriend. "Thought you should know." Simone stared at the screen. Bankruptcy. The final fall from the life Derek had tried to build on lies and credit. She should have felt satisfied. Vindicated. Something. Instead she just felt tired. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Simone?" "It's Mrs. Collins. Derek's mother." Simone hadn't spoken to her since the divorce was finalized. "Hello, Mrs. Collins. I wanted to let you know. Derek's in the hospital." Simone's heart lurched despite herself. "What happened?" "Panic attack. The stress of everything, the bankruptcy, the job situation. He collapsed at work. They kept him overnight for observation." She paused. "I'm not calling to make you feel guilty or to ask you to help. I just thought you should know." "Is he okay?" "Physically, yes. Mentally, he's struggling, Simone. He made terrible choices and he's living with the consequences. I don't expect you to care, but I wanted you to know." After hanging up, Simone sat on her balcony watching the city lights. Part of her, the part that had loved Derek once, hurt knowing he was suffering. But another part, the part that had survived his betrayal, reminded her that his pain was of his own making. She couldn't save him. Wouldn't save him. He had to figure out his own path forward, just like she'd had to figure out hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from Isaiah. "Are you free tomorrow? I want to show you something for the shelter." "Tomorrow works." "Everything okay?" "Everything's great. Just have an idea I want to run by you. Nothing urgent, I just like talking to you." Simone smiled. Isaiah liked talking to her. Not using her money, not hiding from her intelligence, not trying to control her choices. Just talking to her. The next day, Isaiah picked her up in his beat-up truck and drove her to a property on the outskirts of the city. "This came on the market yesterday," he explained. 3 acres, existing building that used to be a school. I thought it might be perfect for phase 2 of the foundation." They walked through the empty building together. Isaiah pointed out possibilities: classrooms that could become job training centers, a gymnasium that could serve as community space, offices for counselors and legal aid. "It's bigger than what we talked about," Simone said. "I know. But you're not thinking big enough, Simone. The foundation started with financial literacy classes. Now you're building a shelter. Next could be job training, daycare for working mothers, support groups, maybe even temporary employment through a social enterprise. You could create a whole ecosystem of support." Simone looked at the empty hallways, seeing what Isaiah saw. Not an abandoned school, but a hub of transformation. "This would cost millions." "You have millions. More importantly, you have vision and passion and the ability to make this real. Money is just a tool. You're the architect of this dream. You're the architect." Isaiah laughed. "I design buildings. You design futures. I just help you make the space for it." Standing in that empty school, Simone felt something click into place. This was what her grandmother's empire was for. Not to hide from weak men or protect herself from betrayal. It was to build something bigger than herself, something that would help women long after she was gone. "Let's do it," she said. "Let's buy this place." Isaiah's face lit up. "Really? Really? But I need you to design something amazing. Something that honors every woman who will walk through these doors." "I can do that." They celebrated over tacos at a food truck, planning the new facility, sketching ideas on napkins, building dreams out of empty spaces. "Can I ask you something?" Isaiah said between bites. "Anything." "Do you ever hear from your ex?" Simone shook her head. "His mother called yesterday to tell me he's in the hospital. Panic attack from stress." But no, Derek and I haven't spoken since the divorce. How do you feel about that? Relieved mostly. Sometimes guilty for feeling relieved. He's struggling and I have so much. But I didn't create his situation. He did that himself. You're allowed to move on, Simone. You're allowed to be happy without carrying his pain. I know. It's just hard sometimes. What's hard? Letting go of the marriage or letting go of the guilt? Simone considered this. The guilt, I think. I was raised to be kind, to help people. Walking away from someone who's suffering feels wrong, even when I know it's the right thing to do. You are helping people. Hundreds of them through the foundation. You can't save everyone, especially people who aren't ready to save themselves. That night, alone in her penthouse, Simone thought about Isaiah's words. She couldn't save Derek. But she could save herself, and in doing so she could help others save themselves too. She opened her laptop and drafted an email to Rebecca. I want to add a program to the foundation. Mental health support for women leaving difficult situations. Therapy, support groups, crisis counseling. Can you help me research what that would require? Rebecca's response came within an hour. Already on it. I knew you'd get there eventually. You can't help people rebuild their finances without helping them rebuild their mental health too. Let's talk Monday about structure and funding. Simone smiled. She was surrounded by people who believed in her vision, who wanted to help her build it, who saw her as a partner, not a project. The next morning she attended the foundation's weekly support group. 20 women sitting in a circle, sharing their stories, their fears, their victories. One woman, Tasha, raised her hand. I wanted to share something. Last month, my ex tried to get back in touch. Said he was sorry, said he'd changed. And I almost believed him. The group leaned forward, listening. But then I remembered what I learned here. I checked my balance. Tasha pulled out her phone, showing the screen to the group. $6,000. I saved it myself, one paycheck at a time. Money he doesn't know about, can't touch, can't use to control me. And I looked at that number and I thought, I don't need him to change. I'm already changing without him. The room erupted in applause. Simone felt tears prickling her eyes. This was why she'd built the foundation. For moments like this, when women realize their own power. After the meeting, Tasha approached Simone. Thank you. For creating this space, for teaching us to protect ourselves. My grandmother used to say, a woman with her own money is a woman who can choose her own life. You're helping us choose. Simone hugged her. Your grandmother was a wise woman. So was yours, I bet. She was. She taught me everything I know. Walking to her car, Simone's phone buzzed. An email from Derek's address, one she thought she'd blocked. She hesitated, then opened it. Simone, I know you probably won't read this and you don't owe me anything. But I'm in therapy now, dealing with everything that happened. My therapist said I should write to you, not to send, just to process. But I'm sending it anyway because you deserve to hear this. You were right. About everything. I was controlling, dismissive, unfaithful, and cruel. I took your kindness for weakness and your patience for stupidity. I'm sorry. Not because I want anything from you, but because you deserve an apology. I hope you're building something beautiful with your life. You always deserve beautiful things. Derek. Simone read it twice. It was a better apology than she'd expected. Honest, specific, not asking for anything. She started to type a response, then stopped. What would be the point? Derek needed to move forward with his life and she needed to keep building hers. She deleted the email without responding, then blocked his address again. Some chapters needed to stay closed. That evening, Isaiah came over for dinner. They cooked together in her penthouse kitchen, moving around each other comfortably, talking about the day, about the shelter progress, about everything and nothing. I got an email from Derek, Simone mentioned as she chopped vegetables. Isaiah looked up from the pan he was stirring. Yeah. What did he say? That he was sorry. That I was right about everything. That I deserved beautiful things. How do you feel about that? Like he finally gets it, but also like it's too late for it to matter. Does that make me cold? No. It makes you honest. He's apologizing for himself to feel better about his choices. You don't owe him forgiveness just because he's finally realized what he lost. Simone set down the knife and looked at Isaiah. Thank you for not being threatened by my past. Why would I be threatened? Your past made you who you are. And who you are is pretty incredible. After dinner they sat on the balcony watching the city lights. Isaiah's arm was around her shoulders, and Simone felt completely at peace. I'm falling in love with you, Isaiah said quietly. I want you to know that. No pressure, no expectations. Just the truth. Simone's heart raced. She'd been so careful, so guarded. But here was this man who saw all of her and loved what he found. "I'm falling in love with you too," she admitted. "It terrifies me." "Me too. But the best things usually do." They sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd found each other in the aftermath of other people's mistakes, building something real and honest and true. Simone's phone buzzed. A notification from her banking app. Her investments had crossed $47 million. She showed Isaiah, not to brag, just to share. He whistled. "That's impressive. You're really good at this." "My grandmother taught me well." "What would she think of all this? The foundation, the shelter, everything you're building?" Simone thought about Grandma Ruth, about her advice to build in silence and protect yourself first. "I think she'd be proud that I learned her lessons. But I also think she'd be glad I'm doing it differently." She had to hide to survive. "I get to be powerful and visible." That's what she wanted for me, a world where I didn't have to choose between safety and truth. "You're giving that to other women now. We're giving that to them. I couldn't do this without you." Isaiah kissed her forehead. "We make a good team." Later, after he'd gone home, Simone stood on her balcony one more time, looking at the city she was changing, one woman at a time. Derek was somewhere out there, struggling with bankruptcy and consequences. And she hoped he found peace, found help, found a way forward. But that wasn't her responsibility anymore. Her responsibility was to the women at the foundation, to the shelter being built, to the programs being developed. To Isaiah, who loved her whole and complete. To herself, finally living the life her grandmother had built an empire to protect. Simone checked her balance one more time, smiled, and went to bed. Tomorrow she had a world to change. The Foundation's first annual gala was Simone's biggest event yet. 200 donors, supporters, and community members gathered in a renovated historic building downtown. The evening would celebrate the Foundation's first year and announce the opening of the new shelter. Simone wore a silver gown that made her feel powerful and elegant. Isaiah, in a sharp navy suit, stood beside her as they greeted guests. "You look beautiful," he whispered. "You clean up pretty well yourself." They'd been together for 8 months now, and being with him had become as natural as breathing. He'd moved into her penthouse 3 months ago, not because of her money, but because they wanted to wake up together every morning. "Simone." Rebecca appeared, looking concerned. "We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Derek is here." Simone's stomach dropped. "What? How did he get in?" "He bought a ticket. They're $50 for general admission. He's in the back near the bar. Security is aware and ready to remove him if you want." Simone scanned the crowd and spotted him. Derek stood alone, wearing a suit that looked worn, his face thinner than she remembered. He wasn't approaching anyone, just watching the event with an expression she couldn't read. "Do you want me to handle this?" Isaiah asked quietly. "No. I'll talk to him. Just stay close. Always." Simone walked over to Derek, aware of people watching, aware that this moment could define the entire evening. "Derek." He turned, and she saw genuine surprise in his eyes, like he hadn't expected her to approach him. "Simone. Thank you for not having me thrown out immediately." "I'm considering it." "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see what you built. I saw the articles, the news coverage. I needed to see it with my own eyes." He gestured to the room. "It's incredible. You're changing lives. We're changing lives. This isn't about me. It started with you though. Your vision, your money, your courage." Derek's voice was quiet, almost defeated. "I spent 5 years trying to make you smaller, and now I see what you become when you're allowed to be big. I was so wrong about everything." "Is this why you came? To apologize again?" "No. I came because I'm finally understanding what I lost. Not the money, Simone. Your mind, your heart, your dreams. I had all of that and I threw it away for hotel rooms and ego." Simone felt Isaiah step closer, his presence reassuring. Derek noticed. "Is this him?" "The architect. This is Isaiah. And yes, we're together." Derek extended his hand. "I'm Derek." The cautionary tale. Isaiah shook it carefully. "I'm Isaiah. The man who knows what he has." Derek flinched. "Yeah. I suppose you do." He turned back to Simone. "I'm not here to cause problems. I just wanted to say in person what I couldn't say properly in that email. You deserved so much better than me. You always did. And I'm glad you found someone who sees that. Derek, I hope you're getting help. I heard about the bankruptcy, the hospital." "I am. Therapy twice a week, working at the sporting goods store, living with my parents while I figure out next steps. It's humbling but it's honest. More honest than anything I did while we were married. People were starting to stare. Simone saw former colleagues of Derek's in the crowd, saw their whispers and pointed looks. You should go, Simone said gently. This event is about the foundation, not our past. I know. I just needed you to see that I finally get it. That I understand what I destroyed and why. Derek's voice cracked slightly. I'm not asking for forgiveness or friendship or anything except for you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. I believe you. And I accept your apology. But Derek, you need to move forward with your life. Stop looking back at what you lost and start building something new. Like you did. Like I did. You have the chance to become someone better. Take it. Derek nodded, eyes bright with unshed tears. Congratulations on all of this. Your grandmother would be proud. He walked toward the exit, but not before half the room saw him leaving, saw the encounter, saw Derek Collins at his ex-wife's successful event looking broken and ashamed. Simone didn't feel victorious. She felt sad for the waste of it all, for the years they'd both lost to his lies and her hiding. You okay? Isaiah asked, arm around her waist. Yeah, I think I am. Rebecca appeared again. Well handled. Very gracious. Now, can we please get on with the actual event? You have a speech to give. The gala proceeded beautifully. Simone spoke about the foundation's mission, introduced the staff and volunteers, announced the shelter opening. Donors pledged over $200,000 for the programs. During dinner, one of the women from the first graduating class, now working as a program coordinator for the foundation, stood to share her story. A year ago, I was hiding money in a coffee can so my boyfriend wouldn't find it. Today I have a real savings account, a job I love, and the confidence to build my own future. Simone didn't give me that, she gave me the tools to give it to myself. That's the difference between charity and empowerment. Thank you, Simone. Thank you for seeing us as powerful, not pitiful. The applause was thunderous. Simone felt tears streaming down her face as woman after woman stood, sharing their stories, their successes, their transformations. This was why she built the foundation. Not to prove anything to Derek, but to prove to these women that they were capable of amazing things. Late that night, back at the penthouse, Simone and Isaiah sat on the balcony, exhausted and happy. You were incredible tonight, Isaiah said. The speech, the way you handled Derek, all of it. I had good support. Thank you for being there. Did you mean what you told him? About moving forward? I did. He's not my problem anymore. He's not even really my past anymore. He's just someone I used to know who made choices I'm grateful I'm no longer affected by. Isaiah pulled her close. I have something to ask you. Okay. The shelter is opening in 2 months. I was thinking, what if we did more than just cut a ribbon? What if we moved into one of the units for the first month, lived alongside the first families, showed them this is a real community? Simone pulled back to look at him. You want to move into the shelter? Temporarily, yes. I want the first residents to see that this isn't some rich woman's charity project. I want them to see that we believe in what we're building enough to be part of it. Simone felt her heart swell. Here was a man who didn't just support her vision. He wanted to live it. You're amazing, you know that? I just believe in what you're doing. And I believe in doing it together. Together, Simone repeated. I like the sound of that. The next morning, Simone woke to texts from multiple people who'd been at the gala. All of them were about Derek's appearance, his obvious remorse, the graceful way Simone had handled the situation. One text from Derek's mother stood out. Thank you for showing Derek kindness last night when you could have humiliated him. He came home in tears, but they were cleansing tears. You helped him understand that moving forward is possible. I'll always be grateful for how you loved my son, even when he didn't deserve it. Wishing you every happiness. Simone showed the text to Isaiah. You gave him closure, Isaiah observed. That was generous. I gave us both closure. I needed to see that he was really working on himself, that the apology was genuine. Now I can fully let go. And how does that feel? Simone thought about it. Light. Like I've been carrying something heavy and finally set it down. 2 weeks later, Simone was working in her foundation office when her assistant buzzed. There's someone here to see you. She says her name is Candace. Simone froze. Derek's former mistress. Should I send her away? Her assistant asked. No. I'll see her. Candace walked in looking nervous, nothing like the confident woman from Derek's text messages. She was younger than Simone had realized, maybe 26 or 27. Thank you for seeing me, Candace said, sitting when Simone gestured to a chair. Why are you here? I'm here because I owe you an apology. A real one, face to face, not hiding behind a phone call or email. Okay. I'm listening. I knew Derek was married. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I told myself stories about you, that you didn't appreciate him, that your marriage was already over, that I was somehow doing you a favor. All lies I told myself to justify inexcusable behavior. Simone waited, letting Candace speak. I saw you at the gala. I bought a ticket too, though I stayed in the back. I saw what you built, what you're doing for women like my mother, who stayed with my father for 20 years because she didn't think she had options. And I realized I was part of the problem, not the solution. What do you want from me, Candace? Nothing. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. That what I did was wrong, and that seeing you succeed despite Derek's betrayal has actually inspired me to be better. I'm in therapy. I'm working on understanding why I made those choices. And I'm sorry. You didn't deserve what we did to you. Simone studied the younger woman. She could hold on to anger, nurse the grudge, make Candace feel worse. But what would be the point? I appreciate the apology. I hope you do become better. Not for me, but for yourself and the next woman who trusts you. Candace stood. Thank you for your grace. Derek was right about one thing, you do deserve beautiful things. I hope you're happy. After she left, Simone sat at her desk, processing the encounter. Both Derek and Candace had apologized, taken responsibility, shown genuine remorse. And she felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even relief. Just a calm acceptance that it was all truly over. She called Isaiah. Guess who just apologized to me in person? Derek again? Candace. The ex-girlfriend? Well, did you throw her out? No. I listened, accepted her apology, and let her go. Is that weird? Should I be angrier? You're allowed to feel however you feel. Sounds like you're just done with all of it. I'm done. I'm ready to focus on what I'm building, not what I'm leaving behind. Speaking of building, the shelter's first family moves in next week. Are we still doing this? Living there for the first month? Absolutely. Let's show them what community really means. That night, Simone packed a bag with essentials for the shelter stay. She'd be leaving her penthouse luxury for a simple 2-bedroom unit with basic furniture and shared community spaces. But she was excited. This was what the work was really about. Showing up, being present, proving that the foundation wasn't just money and programs but real human connection. Her phone buzzed. A final text from Derek's number. Thank you for everything. For the years we had, for the way you ended it with dignity, for showing me what strength really looks like. I'm blocking this number after I send this because you're right. I need to move forward, not keep looking back. I hope you build something extraordinary with your life. You already are. Goodbye, Simone. Simone read it, then deleted the text and blocked the number from her end as well. Some stories needed proper endings. Clean breaks. Final words that actually felt final. This was done. Derek was part of her past, not her present or future. And her future was looking pretty extraordinary. 1 year later, Simone stood on a stage at a community center, preparing to speak at the Grandmother's Legacy Foundation's second annual gala. The past 12 months had been transformative. The shelter had served 42 families, with a 90% success rate of residents moving into permanent housing and stable employment. The financial literacy program had graduated over 200 women. The new job training center, built in the converted school building Isaiah had found, was operating at full capacity with programs in healthcare, technology, and skilled trades. And personally, Simone had never been happier. Isaiah stood in the front row, wearing the ring she'd given him 3 months ago when she proposed. They decided to wait a year before getting married, both of them gun-shy about rushing into anything, but they were building a life together that felt solid and real. Thank you all for being here tonight, Simone began, her voice strong and clear. When I started this foundation 18 months ago, I thought I was building something for other women. Women who needed protection, education, resources. And we have done that. But what I've learned is that this foundation also saved me. She looked out at the audience. Donors, volunteers, program graduates, current residents, community partners. My grandmother taught me to build my empire in silence, to protect myself first. That wisdom saved my life when I needed it. But silence has limits. Real power isn't just protecting what you have, it's using what you have to create change. My grandmother couldn't do that in her time. But I can do it in mine, and that's because of her sacrifice. Simone clicked to the next slide, showing photos of women from the programs. Tasha started with $6,000 in secret savings. Today she owns a small business and employs 3 other women from our program. Michelle left an abusive marriage with nothing. Today she's a certified medical assistant with full custody of her children and her own apartment. Keisha. She stopped laughing. Actually, we don't have any Keishas in the program. Or Jasmine or Mayas. We have Tasha's and Michelle's and Diane's and Crystal's. We have unique, beautiful, complicated women who refuse to be statistics. The audience laughed, then applauded. This year, the foundation helped 243 women access financial education, legal support, job training, and housing assistance. But more than that, we helped them access something money can't buy, the belief that they deserve better and the tools to create it. Simone paused, emotion catching in her throat. A year and a half ago, I discovered my husband's infidelity and my own power in the same moment. When he laughed at me for wanting to see my balance, he thought he was mocking my dependence. Instead, he triggered the moment I stopped hiding and started building. That balance wasn't just money. It was possibility. It was freedom. It was the foundation for everything that came after. She clicked to a new slide showing the upcoming projects. Next year we're expanding. A new shelter in partnership with 3 neighboring communities. A legal clinic offering free representation to women in family court. A social enterprise employment program where women can work and earn while completing job training. An investment fund that helps program graduates become first-time homebuyers. And a scholarship program for children of program participants, because breaking cycles of poverty requires thinking generationally. The applause was sustained and enthusiastic. After the speech, Simone worked the room, thanking donors, hugging graduates, listening to stories. One woman new to the program pulled her aside. I just left my husband last week. I have a 4-year-old daughter and $700 to my name. I'm terrified. Simone took her hands. I understand that fear. But you're already doing the hardest part. You left. Now you get to build something new. What's your name? Diane. Diane, $700 is a start. In 6 months you're going to look back at tonight and be amazed at how far you've come. Not because of magic or luck, but because you're going to work your ass off and we're going to support you while you do it. Diane's eyes filled with tears. You really think I can do this? I know you can. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. And not just in other women, in myself too. Later, Isaiah found Simone on the balcony of the event space, looking at the city lights. Great speech, he said, sliding an arm around her waist. Thanks. I meant every word. I know you did. That's why it landed so well. He kissed her temple. Want to know what I'm most proud of? What? You don't talk about Derek anymore. Not in your speeches, not in conversations, not even in passing. You've moved so far beyond that chapter that it doesn't even register as part of your story now. Simone considered this. He was right. She hadn't mentioned Derek in her speech, hadn't thought about him while writing it. The foundation wasn't about him or the divorce or revenge. It was about something bigger. I saw him actually, Simone admitted. About 2 months ago. He was shopping at a store where one of our graduates works. She told me he was polite, tipped well, didn't cause any problems. Apparently he's managing a different sporting goods store now, doing okay. How did hearing that make you feel? Relieved. He's getting his life together, I'm building mine. We're both moving forward in our own directions. That's how it should be. Isaiah pulled her closer. I have something for you. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a set of architectural drawings. What's this? A house. Our house. I've been designing it for the past 6 months. Off the grid, sustainable, beautiful. A place that's ours, not yours or mine, but ours together. What do you think? Simone studied the drawings, seeing the care in every line. Large windows for light, open spaces for gathering, a home office for each of them, a garden that reminded her of the one at her grandmother's house. It's perfect. When can we start building? After the wedding. I figured we should have one major construction project at a time. They laughed, holding each other as the party continued inside. The next morning, Simone woke in their penthouse and checked her phone. A notification from her banking app showed her current balance, $47,200,000. But more importantly, her foundation's accounts showed $7 million in donations and grants, enough to fund the next 3 years of programming. She opened her notebook and wrote, balance check, financial, $47.2 million personal, $7 million foundation professional, helping 243 women this year, 500 plus next year personal, engaged to a man who sees me as a partner emotional, at peace with my past, excited for my future legacy, building what grandma started. Real balance achieved. Isaiah stirred beside her. Morning. Why are you smiling? Just checking my balance. And I'm rich in all the ways that matter. He pulled her back down beside him. We're rich in all the ways that matter. Yeah, we are. Later that day, Simone visited the foundation for the weekly support group. The room was packed. They'd had to move to a larger space to accommodate everyone. One of the longtime participants, Michelle, stood to share. I want to tell you all something. My ex-husband contacted me last week. Said he was sorry, said he wanted to try again. Said he's changed. The room went silent, everyone waiting. And I told him no. Not because I hate him or because I want revenge. But because I've changed too. I've built a life I'm proud of. I have work I love, a home that's mine, money I control, and most importantly, peace. I don't need him to change because I already changed myself. The room erupted in applause. Simone felt tears streaming down her face. This was what it was all about. Not revenge, not proving anything to ex-husbands or former mistresses. It was about women discovering they didn't need permission to be powerful. They just needed tools, support, and the courage to check their own balance. That evening, Simone and Isaiah cooked dinner in their kitchen, planning their wedding, discussing the house design, dreaming about the future. Sometimes I can't believe this is my life, Simone admitted. 2 years ago, I was pretending to be someone I wasn't, married to someone who didn't really see me. Now I have you, the foundation, a purpose. It feels almost too good to be true. It's real, Isaiah assured her. You built this. You chose this. You created a life that honors who you really are. Simone's phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Derek's bankruptcy is final. All debts discharged. He's starting completely fresh. Thought you'd want to know it's officially over. Simone showed Isaiah the text. How do you feel? He asked. I feel nothing. That's not cruel, is it? I just feel neutral. He got consequences, faced them, and now gets to start over. I did the same thing, just from a position of more resources. We're both building new lives. That's all. That's very healthy, actually. You've moved on. We've moved on. Both of us. Simone deleted the text and put her phone away. She didn't need updates on Derek anymore. His life was his own, just as hers was her own. The following week, the foundation held a graduation ceremony for the latest class of 20 women completing financial literacy training. Each woman received her certificate, her seed savings account, and her toolkit for building wealth. The last graduate to cross the stage was Diane, the woman Simone had spoken to at the gala. 3 months ago, Diane said into the microphone, her voice shaking slightly, I had $700 and a world of fear. Today I have $4,000 in savings, a job I love, an apartment for me and my daughter, and most importantly, hope. I thought my ex-husband was the only path to security. Turns out I was my own path all along. I just needed someone to show me the way. She looked directly at Simone. Thank you for being that someone. After the ceremony, Simone found Isaiah waiting with flowers. For you, he said, for changing the world one woman at a time. We're changing the world, Simone corrected. This only works because of people like you who believe in it. That night, standing on their balcony one more time, Simone thought about the journey that had brought her here. The hidden empire, the betrayal, the divorce, the foundation, Isaiah, the house they were planning, the wedding they were designing. Her phone buzzed one final time. A notification from her investment app showing her portfolio had crossed $50 million. She smiled and put the phone away without telling Isaiah. The money was important. It funded the foundation, provided security, honored her grandmother's legacy. But it wasn't the measure of her worth anymore. The real balance wasn't in her bank account. It was in the lives she was changing, the love she was building, the future she was creating. Her grandmother had taught her to protect herself first. Simone was teaching other women they could be protected and powerful at the same time. That was the real inheritance. Not $42 million or $50 million or any number at all. It was the knowledge that your worth wasn't determined by who stayed or who left, who believed in you or who dismissed you, who controlled you or who freed you. Your worth was determined by who you chose to become when you finally stopped hiding. Simone had chosen to become powerful, visible, and free. And every day she helped other women make that same choice. That was the real balance. And it was worth more than all the money in the world.